Good evening, everybody. I butchered that a little bit. And welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook, Live, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm Bryson Carver. We've got a great show for you guys today. All kinds of NBA topics. We're in that time of the season where the All-Star break is fast approaching. A little later than normal, of course, because of COVID. Got one NFL topic, actually two NFL topics coming up with Cam Newton and the kid that was a little bit of a heckler, kind of a jerk to Cam. Early in that camp that he was at, the football camp, youth football camp that he was helping with. Also, the Mac Jones hype, it's getting out of control. Okay, it's going south, and I'm going to try and see if I can stop the hype train right in its tracks. We'll see if that can happen or not because it's getting ridiculous. I'll discuss that a little later in the show. But let's start with the game last night. The Brooklyn Nets took on the Los Angeles Clippers in a big marquee Sunday night game yesterday. Excuse me. The Clippers have been playing well. They have beaten the Jazz on Friday. Also a game on ESPN. Very entertaining. Pat Bev played well. But they were playing the Nets last night. And, of course, the Nets, once again, are missing Kevin Durant because of a hamstring issue. And I'm a little concerned with KD and the fact that he still seems to be dealing with some minor injuries. I know he sat out one game a few weeks ago because of an Achilles issue, which is, of course, a big red flag because of the Achilles injury he had in the finals a couple years back. But the Nets played the Clippers last night. Got a big win, 112-108. But I'll get into the call at the end of the game against Kawhi Leonard. I'll discuss that a little later on in this topic. But here's what I'm starting to see with Brooklyn. The question is it sustainable? Here's what I'm starting to see with Brooklyn. They're meshing, man, and it's a little surprising. Now, again, KD has been out, but they go on the road. Cross-country trip. This is the Brooklyn Nets. This is New York, right? They go on the road. Big West Coast trip. Okay, so they go to Golden State against my Warriors and take care of business handily. Win by 17. It was actually worse than that if you really watch the game. All three stars play well. James Harden was amazing. Kyrie has some big finishes. So they go on the road, still kind of in the Bay Area. They beat the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento may or may not make the playoffs. My guess is they don't. Okay, they went on the road, but that's still their first game without Kevin Durant. They go on the road in Phoenix, okay, and they're down 24 points to the Phoenix Suns. And we could say Kardashian curse if we want, but they choked a 24-point lead. This is without Kyrie Irving. This is without Kevin Durant. And James Harden leads the Brooklyn Nets from down 24 points against the Phoenix Suns. Okay, drops 38, 11, and 7. Okay, 3 rebounds away from a triple-double. And the Nets take care of the Phoenix Suns handily in the fourth quarter. And they win that game against a Suns team that's going to be the 4th or 5th, at worst-case scenario, the 6th seed in the West. Much better conference. So then they go on the road Thursday night against the Lakers. You could say, well, they had no ID. The Lakers were without Anthony Davis. Yeah, well, the Nets were without Kevin Durant. He's pretty good. And they go on the road and they take care of the Lakers. Now, LeBron was pretty good, but not enough to put the Lakers over the top. I'm going to discuss the Lakers a little later on the show. But Brooklyn pretty much controlled that game from the tip, the rest of the night. And so, and then last night they beat the Clippers, very good Clippers team. I don't buy as championship contenders, but they're a good team. What I was most impressed with is, we talk about Brooklyn's defense. It has not been good for most of the season, but they held the Clippers under 50% shooting. Now, the Clippers did shoot 43% from three-point range, but they only held them to 51 in the first half. They scored 57 in the second half. If you're a Brooklyn Nets fan today, you say in the playoffs, if our opponent averages 108 points a game, great, because the offensive firepower we have, three of the 7, I'll just throw out that number, 3 of the 7 best offensive players in the game that we have. If we hold our opponent to 108, we're good. We're good. Now, again, that's the question. Is it sustainable? Is that type of run sustainable? I don't know. Time will tell. It looks like they're going to get Kevin Durant back for their game tomorrow night on NBA TV against the Sacramento Kings. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But I love what I saw from the Nets. And listen, this is a team I predicted before the season. This is, of course, before James Harden got traded there. This is a team I predicted before the season to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. It's a team a lot of people predicted to do just that, but lose to the Lakers. But once they traded for Harden, I'm like, man, they gave up depth, gave up pretty good defensive players. Jared Allen, great rim protector. Taurean Prince, good wing defender. Didn't love it. But if it's starting to mesh a little bit, Steve Nash kind of has, he's been going small these last few games, and taking DeAndre Jordan, who played well last night, by the way, taking DeAndre Jordan, playing him off the bench. It's looked good. The Bruce Brown is a kid I think they're starting as the small, center. It's really a positionless game, so you can make that what you will. But this is a team that I think is meshing a little bit now. Can they? Now let's not act like we did last year, like I did last year, I should say. I can't accuse everybody of making the same mistake I did with the Clippers last season, where they didn't play enough games together. Now I think they had some stuff internally that went way beyond basketball, with not just chemistry issues, but there was a real power struggle with Kawhi and Paul George and the rest of the team. And you know me, I'm all about star players having power, but Kawhi being late for team flights because he lives in San Diego and just all kinds of stuff. I think with Brooklyn, there's no question they can score a lot of points. I mean, come on now. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. That's 80 points right there, at least. But can they solve their defensive problems? Now, can they do that? It looked like over the course of this road trip, they did a great job against the Lakers. They held the Lakers, albeit without Anthony Davis, but we're talking about the defending champs here. They held the Lakers to 98 points, and they held the Clippers to 108. So if they can and listen, Kyrie Irving is not a good defender. Even when I've been critical of James Harden playing defense. That's because James Harden, when he puts his mind to it, he's not a terror. I'm not saying he's, Tony Allen. I'm not saying he's that, but he's a solid defender when he puts his mind to it. And so if you're not a great individual defender, like I don't think Kyrie Irving is, and I don't know if Kevin Durant necessarily wants to be because he wants to keep himself healthy with the Achilles issue and saving himself at the offensive end, whatever. But you got to play great team defense, right? And you can't be winning giving up, when they gave up 125 points. I mentioned the Kings game. They gave up 125 to the Kings. Okay, that can't happen in the long run, and we've seen that they've really struggled. They gave up 122 a few weeks ago to the Detroit Pistons. So if they fix their defensive problems, and they looked good in the last two against two very good offensive teams, if they fix their defensive issues, get KD back, and again, had those big three play some games together. They've only played like 7 games together. Okay, so get the big three together, play some games, build that team chemistry, fix their defense. We've got a team that can beat the Lakers. I'm not saying they will. I still have the Lakers winning the title as long as AD comes back and he's healthy and he's what he was last season in the regular season and in the playoffs. But Brooklyn looks like the best team in the East right now. I think today their only threat is Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has not played well as of late. I don't worry about Milwaukee. Milwaukee has not played well at all over the last week and a half. I can't trust Giannis late in these big playoff games. I definitely can't trust the rest of the Bucks. Chris Middleton, I love Drew Holiday, but I've never seen him in a big playoff situation. And so there's that. The Pacers don't have near enough firepower to compete with the Brooklyn Nets. Boston's kind of a mess right now. Okay, I mean I'm going to talk about Boston in just a little bit. They're kind of all over the place. So there's that. Now I want to talk about briefly before I move on to that Celtics Pelicans game, which was the first. It wasn't really a doubleheader. There was some time in between the Celtics Pelicans game and the Clippers Nets game. But I wanted to talk about that call at the end of the game where, Clippers are down to the Nets after a big DeAndre Jordan tip in. Kawhi Leonard takes it. He's got James Harden on him. So you're like, oh, mismatch. Kawhi's bigger, stronger against Harden's not going to play great defense. Again, he's not Patrick Beverly. He's not Tony Allen. And so you're thinking, okay, mismatch, smaller player, not as big, not as strong. And so Kawhi drives to the rim, lays it in, and they call offensive foul. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to show the replay, and Kawhi extended his left arm. And they show the replay, and it's like, Kawhi didn't do anything. He didn't extend his left arm. And you could see, I didn't see it up close because I wasn't necessarily paying attention to Harden. I was paying attention to Kawhi's left elbow and see if it extended. But I saw today, this is why they called the foul. James Harden, who has been known to do this on occasion, he's playing defense on Kawhi, And right as Kawhi's about to go up hard, throws his head back. And so they call the offensive foul on Kawhi Leonard. It was, of course, a terrible call. And first of all, I think there's two issues the NBA needs to address. It seemed like the flopping is kind of making a comeback. I remember 4, 5, 6 years ago, I'm going to go about 5 years ago, was when the NBA kind of put their foot down and say, okay, enough flopping. You know, if you're trying to sell the call, that's one thing. But if you're just straight up just throwing your head back, throwing your body back like you just got hit by a truck, that's a whole different story. And you know, we all know James Harden is good at drawing fouls on the offensive end, maybe not so much defensively. But this got to stop, okay? And then on the other end, and I've really reserved this saying more for playoff basketball, maybe not playoff basketball, just in any sport in the playoffs. But even this is, it's a big regular season game. It's on ABC. The whole country's watching. Yeah, we want to see the two of the 5 best teams in basketball, two championship contenders. I don't know if the Clippers are. I can't see them winning the championship. I can't see them beating either Brooklyn or the Lakers. But that's neither here nor there. 2 of the 5 best teams in basketball going head to head. You know, nobody wants to see that game end with a foul call unless. And I talked about this with another podcaster. Is I don't want to, in the last 4 or 5 minutes of a basketball game, okay, especially in the playoffs, this is times 10 in the playoffs. In the last 4 or 5 minutes of a basketball game or any game in sports, I don't want the officials to call anything unless it's clear and obvious. If Kawhi sticks his left elbow out, clearly pushes Harden off, and gets an easy layup, that's why he got an easy layup. If he did, in fact, extend his left elbow, okay, you got to call it. I mean, you just have to. But even if there's just a kind of just a little extension, I still don't want to see the whistle blown in that situation. You want to see the best players make big plays. And, Kawhi makes that layup. Hey, we get to answer, I get it, Kevin Durant's out, but we get to the answer to a big question. Who takes the last shot? Kyrie Irving or James Harden? Who takes the last shot? So just in that, and I'm not one to blame refs. I hate it when fans blame refs. We lost because of the refs. No, the refs make bad calls every game. Okay, and that's how they're human. They're not robots. They're not gonna get every call right. But I've always been about accountability with referees. I'm about to talk about this Boston and New Orleans game. JJ Redick got tossed in the fourth quarter of that game for he's frustrated and he's kind of in the painted area. Gets called for a foul. The ref is, on the other side of the court on the baseline, or not on the baseline, on the sideline. And JJ Redick kind of spins the ball a certain way, throws it to him, says something, and gets tossed out of the game. Come on, man. Like, unless I don't want to give a player a technical, and I definitely wouldn't want to throw him out unless he's just, cursing you out, or he's, if of course, if he got like in your personal business, if he's, if there's contact, that's a big no-no. But come on, let the players play a little bit if you're the refs. And I know it's a regular season, and this would be a much bigger deal, and rightfully so if this were the playoffs. But we don't want to see the refs decide games. Okay, this is why the NFL and the NBA during the finals and during the Super Bowl, this is why they had their best officiating team come together, because they don't want the officials to be the story at the end of the day. I mean, I'm trying to remember the last Super Bowl where the refs were the story. Maybe Super Bowl 47, where there was a debatable pass interference in the end zone with, I think it was Michael. I think it was Crabtree, and I think Jimmy Smith was defending him. The 49ers and the Ravens, there was a pass in the end zone, and there was some contact, no flag. But even then, it wasn't like the Saints and the Rams, for example, like where it was a clear pass interference and clear helmet to helmet, but it wasn't called. Again, I'm not one to blame officials. I think that's ridiculous to just, we lost just because of this ref. No, you lost because you didn't take advantage of certain situations during the course of the game. Nobody's going to remember that big turnover in the second quarter, or a missed free throw, or missed 2 free throws in the third quarter. Okay, so you can't just blame the refs for everything. But I do want to see more accountability on the part of the officials, and I don't want to see games decided by the zebras, quote unquote. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Now, let's shift to Boston, and let's shift to the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, I've said for a little bit, I've said for probably the last 3, 4, 5 months, I bought into the Celtics, especially when they traded for Kyrie Irving in 2017. They added Gordon Hayward, and of course, unfortunately, Gordon Hayward suffered a compound fracture very first game he played for the Celtics, and it's good to see Gordon doing what he's doing in Charlotte. It looks like it's the old Utah Jazz, Gordon Hayward. It's good to see these came back from the injury. But I bought in the Celtics that year. Okay, and Kyrie gets hurt. Hayward, of course, already got hurt, as I mentioned. And the Celtics, led by a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever, however young he was, Jason Tatum, gets one win away from the NBA Finals. He almost beats LeBron James, for crying out loud. And then the year after, Celtics, it's a done deal. They're going to the finals. And they get bounced in the second round in 5 games by Milwaukee, and Kyrie plays terrible. Kyrie leaves, and they add Kemba Walker. So I'm like, okay. I had actually had Philly winning the finals, or getting to the finals last year, out of the East. And so, but I certainly saw Boston as a contender, maybe the second, possibly the second running to win the East. And that's actually what ended up happening, but they lost to Miami. And so at this point, I'm done buying into the Celtics. I love Jason Tatum. I love what Jaylen Brown's doing this season. Jaylen Brown is no doubt, he's an all-star this year. Okay, those two guys, especially Jaylen Brown, they're both all-stars. But Kemba Walker's deteriorating physically. We've seen him struggle with injuries in the bubble. We see him struggling with injuries to start the season. He missed about a month to start the year. I think Brad Stevens is a great coach, but I just don't know if all the pieces fit together with Boston. Tristan Thompson has not been good. Daniel Tice, he didn't get yammed on by Zion, but I mean, Zion goes up and Tice just gets thrown backwards because of how big and strong Zion Williamson is, and he goes up for a layup with and one foul. But they don't have size. They don't have a dependable point guard you can trust, which is weird to say that about a guy like Kemba Walker, who I loved going back to his days at UConn in college. But this is not a team I buy long-term as a championship contender, because one of their issues is they're not aggressive in free agency. Their big free agent pickup this past year was Tristan Thompson. Okay. He can start for you some games at center, but is Tristan Thompson going to be the difference in you getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and getting to the finals? I don't even know if they could get to the semifinals today. I mean, look at some of the teams in the East. I like Milwaukee more than I do Boston. I'm starting to like Toronto if they don't trade Kyle Lowry. I'm starting to like Toronto more than I do Boston. Everybody likes the Nets and the Sixers more than Boston. And in Indiana, I wouldn't rule out them, taking down the Celtics. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's a mess. I'm definitely not going to sit here and say it's a poorly run organization, because it's the exact opposite. I think Danny Ainge does a pretty good job. Does great drafting team. But at some point or another, they got to be aggressive in a big trade. Can they make a trade for maybe they could go after Andre Drummond. If Andre Drummond gets released, if the Cavs can't find a trade partner, maybe they go after Blake Griffin. So we just got to see how it plays out. And they have Miss Marcus Smart, which is not helped. But again, is Marcus Smart going to be the difference in you getting to, in you at least competing in the second round and you getting to the finals? I mean, that's the situation the Celtics are dealing with right now. So, yesterday they're up 24 on a Pelicans team, which I liked going into the year. I had the Pelicans, I believe, as the 8th seed. I had them getting into the playoffs this year. Zion Williamson has been phenomenal. Brandon Ingram's been really good. Lonzo shot well from three-point range and been a good point guard for them. And the Celtics are up 24, and they lose to, one of the bottom teams, albeit in the West. I think they're a pretty good team. I think them firing Alvin Gentry was a mistake last year, and hiring Stan Van Gundy. But Boston should be, I know it's on the road, but Boston should be able to win that game easily. You're up 24. Zion Williamson only had like 7 in the first half. Like, you got to win that game. They're trying to build a little bit of momentum going into the All-Star break. And today they're 15-15. They're 500. I'm sorry. It's not working right now. And I'm not saying they need to blow it up and trade Tatum and trade, Jaylen Brown. No, they don't. Those two guys, especially, those are your long-term, those are your core guys. But at some point, they got to be aggressive in free agency or in a trade. Okay, I believe they were in the James Harden. They were in the running for James Harden. And they said, we're not going to do it. It's like, why is James Harden? The pieces you have, I know you'd have to give up some stuff for it. Just say, hey, we're not trading Jaylen Brown. We're not trading Jason Tatum. Anybody else, you can have if you're Houston. So that's the issue with the Celtics today. They're just not aggressive enough. which is weird because, just across the street at Fenway Park, for my Red Sox, I'm repping the Red Sox today. But Boston, the Red Sox are very aggressive, right? They go after guys in free agency. They look for these big trades, okay? And it culminated in 2018, winning the World Series and doing it fairly easily. And by the way, they had guys from their farm system: Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley, Andrew Benintendi, guys like that. But they went after JD Martinez in free agency, and they traded for Chris Sale going into the 2017 season. So they were aggressive. Okay, I've heard the saying before: fortune favors the bold. Okay, you got to be aggressive to go win a championship. You can't play it safe. It's funny. The last time the Celtics, the great Celtics franchise, which has only won one championship in the last 35 seasons. Think about that. This is the Boston Celtics. And they've won a grand total of 1 NBA Finals over the last 35 years. And the one finals they did win, they had Paul Pierce, right? They developed him. They traded for Ray Allen. They traded for Kevin Garnett. And of course, they drafted Rondo. So there's nothing wrong. You should draft good players. And Danny Ainge does a phenomenal job of drafting, of scouting talent in the draft. And they've already got the coach in Brad Stevens. But you got to go up, be aggressive in free agency or in trades. It worked for you in 2008, and it almost worked for you guys in 2010 and 2012. And that's the last time you were really contenders. So you got to be aggressive. You got to go after these great players in free agency and in trades. You had a prime opportunity with James Harden, just didn't take advantage of it. So there's that. Now let me talk about the let's see here. Yeah, let me talk about the Cam Newton situation. Now Cam Newton is at a camp yesterday. I don't think it was his camp. I think it was someone else's, but he decided to show up, to be good in the community, help these kids develop. And a video yesterday goes viral. I'm not going to, go into detail about, the kid's name or anything like that. I think it'd be disrespectful. And he did post an apology on social media today, which is good. But we see the clip where, and I've been to football camps before where, they're kind of these individual drills, and Cam Newton's standing right there. And this kid in the back is saying, "Hey, you're a free agent. You're a free agent." Like, you basically code for, "Hey, you suck, Cam." And Cam, some people are criticizing him. First thing he said was, "I'm rich." Listen, I'm not, I hate it when athletes go back and forth with fans, like on social media and stuff. I love Kevin Durant. It drives me crazy at times when he goes back and forth in these petty arguments with fans that, that have like 6 followers on Twitter, these little petty back and forths. It's like you're Kevin Durant. But, if it's in person, yeah, I'm going to respond. If you're saying I'm terrible, I'm trash, I'm this, I'm that, I'm going to respond. And I guess the first thing that came to Cam Newton's mind was, "I'm rich." Well, that's true. May have not been the greatest way to respond, but again, there's the issues of going after a great player. I'm not saying Cam Newton's a Hall of Famer, but can that kid contact any of us the next time he wins, I don't know, an MVP? Or when he's one of the greatest running quarterbacks of all time, up there with Randall Cunningham and Steve Young? Okay. What an argument could be made, Cam, Michael Vick, an argument could be made Cam is the greatest running back or running quarterback of all time. Maybe we should have that debate on the show at some point. That's a good idea. But Cam's a great player. Okay, and maybe not today. He's not what he was in 2015. He's absolutely. He said it on a podcast. He said, "I'm not retiring. I'm not a backup. I'm one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league. Thus, I'm going to be a starter next year." And I back him on that. He is a starter. He is one. There's not 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, including some of the guys coming in. If you put them in with the draft, there's not 32 guys starting at quarterback in this league that are better than Cam Newton. I'm sorry, there's not. I mean, how many quarterbacks have the resume this guy does? There's plenty, but not as many as one would lead you to believe. And so, yeah, I didn't like that this kid disrespected Cam Newton like that. Cam is there. And again, I went to 3 straight years. I went to it's no longer in effect anymore because he's retired, but I went to the Jason Witten football camp. Jason Witten, all-time great tight end, great human being. And it's like, man, that's Jason Witten. That's one of the greatest tight ends ever. First ballot Hall of Famer. Like, he's holding this camp. And, he's helping the community. That's great. That's what Cam Newton's doing. And this kid just shows up and, could learn some stuff from, this is Cam Newton. This is a great NFL quarterback. And instead of picking his brain and asking him questions, you're just trash talking him, saying he's, oh, you're a free agent. What? Tom Brady was a free agent last year. Does that mean he's terrible? No, it means his contract expired. And so I don't know. I've heard some people criticizing it, saying it's the generation of today. I don't know, man. I'm probably the same age as that kid. I certainly, I'm not trying to prop myself up or anything, but I wouldn't disrespect Cam Newton like that. And so listen, I'm not going to be too hard on him because, again, he did issue an apology on social media saying that's not what my parents have instilled in me. And so, I'm going to take him for his word. No reason to say, oh, it's not sincere. No, do better. When you know better, you do better. Right. And so he knows better. Now it's up to him to do better. But I just hope this doesn't become like some kind of trend where, if you see a professional athlete, first thing you think of is to disrespect him or to say he's not good. I mean, again, please call me when you're an MVP and when you get to the Super Bowl and you're one of the greatest running back quarterbacks ever. Just, if you see a professional athlete, you just, or anybody, I'm not saying if Cam Newton was just some high school coach, you still don't talk to him like that. You don't just, disrespect him like the way that this kid did with Cam Newton. Like you don't do that. But hopefully he's learned his lesson. Hopefully he does better and makes better choices in this regard in the future. But yeah, Cam is absolutely a starting quarterback in the league. I mean, name 32 quarterbacks better. Does New England bring him back? I think that's a possibility. We see with New England, is they're playing Jarrett Stidham? Because if they're playing Jarrett Stidham, just bring back Cam then. Okay, because Jarrett Stidham was there in 2019. He was Tom Brady's backup. And, we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo, Belichick wanted to trade Brady. This is in 2017. This is the year Brady won his last MVP. And he's in the middle of this great season. And Belichick says, I'm going to trade Tom Brady and go with Jimmy G. And, Robert Kraft says, no, we're not trading Tom Brady. And so Belichick basically gives Jimmy G in a trade to the 49ers. And so what Belichick saw in practice, for some reason or another, he thought Jimmy Garoppolo was better than Tom Brady or gave them a better chance to win than Tom Brady, which is, of course, absurd, but that's what he thought. He saw stuff in practice that's impressed him. And yet Cam, Tom Brady was not great in 2017, or 19, which was in large part because of the lack of receiving talent, lack of weapons. But, Belichick, because he could have easily said, hey, Tom Brady, you go to the bench. Jarrett Stidham, you're in. But he didn't do that. Even when Tom struggled down the stretch, and again, I'm not going to say all of it was the receivers. Some of it was Tom. I'd say about 80% was on the receivers. About 20% was on Tom. He didn't make great decisions. Threw some pick sixes towards the end of the year against the Dolphins and the Titans in that one playoff game. But, even this year, you get Cam Newton, and down the stretch of the year, man, especially that Thursday night game against the Rams, Cam Newton did not play well. And there's 3 games left in the season. Patriots are basically out of the playoff picture entirely. And Belichick could have said, hey, Jarrett Stidham, you're in. But he didn't. He still thought Cam Newton gave a better shot to win football games than Jarrett Stidham. So if that's your long-term plan, New England, then just re-sign Cam Newton for $15 million. Unless you want to trade up and draft a quarterback, which I would have no problem with at all. But if you're going to do that, you need to rebuild your receiving core. So that's the situation that the Patriots are in right now. But yeah, Cam's a starter. There's no question about it. He's not MVP Cam. He's not super Cam in Carolina, but he's still very productive. He's a great running quarterback. Accuracy still needs improvement, and that's an issue we've seen with Cam Newton over the past, well, really since he came into the league. His accuracy has never been great, but maybe he fixes that in the offseason, and hopefully he's healthy and is ready to go in 2021. But he's 32 years old. He's not retiring. He may retire in the next 3, 4, 5 seasons because of all the hits he's taken from being a running quarterback and from being so large. Guys got to hit him hard. But today, he's a starting quarterback. So let me get back to the NBA real quick before I get to my Mac Jones topic. The Lakers are 0-2 thus far without Anthony Davis. Of course, he's going to be out bare minimum until All-Star break. with the Achilles issue, which I said on the show last Monday, a week ago. I said I'm not playing Anthony Davis a minute for at least a month. Make the Achilles, man. You don't mess with the hamstring. Like the hamstring is kind of a tick below it. You don't mess with the hamstring. You dang sure don't mess with the Achilles. You don't mess with that thing, man. And so, we saw what happened with Kevin Durant. We saw what happened with Kobe in 2013. His Achilles has been bothering him, but he kept playing, and it was a tribute, a credit to the kind of competitor Kobe was, but he should not have been playing. And in the end, he's driving to the basket, and there goes his Achilles, and he's out for a while. And see, you really don't want to see that happen to Anthony Davis at all. But anyways, here's the thing, and I talked about this last week with the Lakers moving forward up until the All-Star break, which is in about a week and a half, without Anthony Davis. And I said, look, their schedule's not easy. They play the Timberwolves without AD. It's the Timberwolves. They just fired their head coach, Ryan Saunders. So, you'll take that for what you will. And they only won by 8. And so then they go home and play Brooklyn without Kevin Durant. And again, I guess some of it was great Brooklyn defense. I thought they moved well, play good team defense, but Lakers only scored 98. Okay. And then Saturday night, the big primetime ABC game, they play the team that they beat in the finals, the Miami Heat, who's, I said, hey, look out for the Heat. With Jimmy Butler, they're a real squad. They are still very much in the running to maybe upset Brooklyn or Philadelphia to win the East. And, LeBron almost had a triple-double, but 7 for 21 for the field, only 33%, 1 for 8 from 3. Like, he's got to be better. And he knows that. He knows that. He'll play well in the next game. Kyle Kuzma gave him 23 points, but shot under 50% from the field. And so, and I heard the people, the people that just straight up, let's just be honest, they don't know basketball. This Lakers got a steal at the end of the game. LeBron gets double teamed, and there are people that still say, hey, you should have taken the last shot. No, he shouldn't have. He got double teamed. Unless there's 1 second left and you don't have time to pass the ball, you don't shoot the ball double teamed at the end of the game when there's Alex Caruso wide open. And Alex Caruso missed the shot that would have tied the game and sent it in overtime. So the criticism of, there's been times where I thought, hey, LeBron, you got to take this shot. But the times where he's been like double teamed or he's got a better shooter open, you pass it up. That's what Michael Jordan did with Steve Kerr in the finals in 1997, Game 6 against the Utah Jazz. Michael said, hey, I'm going to get doubled. Steve, you're a great shooter. Knock the shot down. And Steve Kerr knocked it down. And the Bulls won the finals. But back to the Lakers, their upcoming schedule is not a piece of cake. Tonight, they play the Wizards at home. I think they'll win that game tonight. But Washington has been playing pretty well since they got over their COVID problems and got that situation figured out. And they're playing well right now. Then they play the Utah Jazz. I can't wait for this game. I was on another podcast not too long ago that'll be uploaded soon. You can follow me on social media for the information on that. But I said on that show, I'm looking forward to this Wednesday night game where they go on the road. It's a big game, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific on ESPN, where they play the Utah Jazz, who currently have the best record in basketball right now. And I like Utah as the biggest threat to the Lakers. I really do. I don't trust the Clippers long term. I just don't. I still think they got some internal issues that they still haven't really truly addressed. And so without Anthony Davis, I'm not expecting them to necessarily go on the road and win. But if they get smacked, okay, we may have a little concern there. Then they play Portland. We know what Damian Lillard represents. Damian Lillard, who got robbed of an all-star spot, but that's neither here nor there. That's a different story for a different show. But, Damian Lillard's been amazing over the last month and really the entire season long. The man's averaging 28 points a game, or 30 points a game, excuse me. He's averaging 30. And so he's going to be a problem for the Lakers. Who's going to guard him? Schroeder? Schroeder can't guard Dame. Call KCP. He can't guard Dame for a full 48 minutes. You're going to have to just switch guys back and forth on him and see if you can wear him down. But that game's, by the way, also on ESPN on Friday. Then they play Golden State, who beat the Lakers when they had Anthony Davis. And Steph wasn't even amazing in that game. Okay? And so, by the way, speaking of the Warriors, don't even get me started on Draymond getting 2 straight technicals and Terry Rozier hitting a buzzer beater at the end. That was painful. But I'm not even being biased as a Warriors fan. This is I know it's LeBron James, okay? But the Warriors beat the Lakers in Staples Center when the Lakers did have Anthony Davis. And LeBron didn't play particularly well. AD didn't play well. Really, Dennis Schroeder was the best Laker on the floor that night. And Steph wasn't even great, and the Warriors still won and came back from 22 points down. So there's that. That's an ABC primetime game next Sunday. And then they play a game against the Phoenix Suns. Of course, I like the Lakers more than I do Phoenix, even without Anthony Davis, but that's not an easy test. It's, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, decent bench. Monty Williams is one of the best coaches in the league. It's not an easy win. Then they go on the road and play the Sacramento Kings, which they should win. But I talked about this last week. Their schedule is not cupcake. I mean, these are some hard teams in here. Utah, Portland with Damian Lillard, Golden State with Steph Curry, the Suns. I'm not saying these teams are going to beat the Lakers in the playoffs because they're not. But they need to at least stack up some wins a little bit. Get a little bit of momentum going forward into the All-Star break, and also not feel like they have to rush Anthony Davis back. Because, like I said, playoff seeding is not going to matter as much this year. And it obviously didn't at all last year. It was a bubble. But, like as in years past, because even if the Clippers get a higher seed than the Lakers, let's just say hypothetically there are fans in the Staples Center if those two squared off. Even, we see it even at Clippers home games, that's a Lakers crowd. You could tell by the way the crowd reacts to made shots, missed shots, fouls. That's a Lakers crowd that shows up to Lakers Clippers at the Staples Center. Even if it's a Clippers home game. Okay, so, but if you're the Lakers, you don't want to drop to like the 4 seed. You don't want to do that. So, I think that is a little bit concerned. If they can, and judging by what LeBron said after the game, after that loss to the Heat on Saturday night, they'll figure it out. But I'm not saying they're going to go over. But I am saying though these are not going to be easy games, and they're not going to go undefeated the rest of the way to the All-Star break. So. There are some challenges, and again, it's a great opportunity for guys like Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, who's played pretty well, Dennis Schroeder, who I think needs to step it up a little bit, KCP. This is a great opportunity for these Lakers role players to really step it up and show LeBron, just like they did in the bubble last year, hey, you can trust us in the long run. You can trust us to make these big shots in the playoffs against good teams. So this is more of a long-term thing than a short-term, of course, with the Lakers. And so, there's that. I still think they're going to win the finals this year as long as Anthony Davis is healthy. But this is not an easy schedule going forward for LA. So last topic. No, it's a little bit of a shorter show today, but last topic. I saw this headline this morning. Last year with Joe Burrow, I didn't buy the hype. I thought he had, and I even said this last year, I thought Joe Burrow had the greatest season of any college quarterback of all time. I mean, the man threw 60 touchdown passes. LSU beat like 5 or 6 top 10 teams, something crazy. Argument can be made that the 2019 LSU Tigers football team was the greatest college football team of all time. I mean, you could actually make that argument. You should certainly put them in the top 10. So, but with Joe Burrow, part of the issue is I was thinking, well, he's going to a bad organization in Cincinnati that has no offensive line, no running game, and no defense. Joe Mixon is a great running back, but consistently you don't really see him play well in these big games. I don't like the head coach, Zach Taylor. I don't think he's right for them in the long run. He's shown an inability to develop quarterbacks. And the owner, Paul Brown, I believe is his name. Paul Brown? I think that's his name. Mr. Brown, Mike Brown, excuse me. He's the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's shown a tendency to be cheap. He doesn't spend a lot of money on free agents, and he's not aggressive in trades. And so that's why and I didn't see Joe Burrow make any NFL throws. I saw a couple, but nothing where I'm like, wow, that's special. But of course I was dead wrong on Joe Burrow. And had he not gotten injured, he would have been at least in the running for Rookie of the Year. I still like Justin Herbert in the long run. I said that before last year's draft, that I would not be shocked that if Tua has injury issues, which he kind of has, and Joe Burrow struggles in Cincinnati, I'm like, Justin Herbert's going to be the best quarterback coming out last year. And thus far, again, it's 1 year, but it looks like that could be the case. Justin Herbert was amazing last year with the Chargers. But there's hype for another quarterback that is not in the same galaxy as Joe Burrow, and he's not even the same universe as Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones out of Alabama. And I talked about this a little bit after Bama won the national championship a month and a half ago. As I said, look, it helps when the Heisman Trophy winner is your best receiver. Okay? It helps when Steve Sarkisian is one of the best offensive coordinators in college football. It helps when Najee Harris is the best running back in college football, and you got the best offensive line in college football, and a great defense that played well at the end of the year. Okay? And he didn't, some of his deep balls, I heard one scout say that he throws one of the best deep balls I've ever seen. Well, yeah, it helps when your receiver is open by 15 yards. I mean, go watch the tape of some of his touchdown passes. How many were into tight coverage? How many were into tight windows? I saw one throw against Tennessee where I was like, wow, that was a great throw. Outside of that, I haven't seen anything where I'm like, that dude's a top 10 draft pick from Mac Jones. Well, a former NFL assistant coach, June Jones, says that if he had the number one pick, if he ran the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the number one pick in this year's draft in a couple months, he would take Mac Jones over Trevor Lawrence. And, okay, I'm not listening anymore. So, Trevor Lawrence, just for context, Trevor Lawrence is one of the best college prospects going into the NFL we've ever seen. We're talking about Elway, Marino, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. Like, this guy could literally, I'm not even being hyperbolic here. I'm dead serious. And by the way, talk to scouts. They'll tell you the same thing. This guy could literally be the best quarterback prospect coming out of college and going into the NFL that we've ever seen. I mean, did you watch this guy's pro day? I know he's throwing to wide open wide receivers, but the arm angle, the arm strength, the way he moves in the pocket, we saw at Clemson. He's crazy accurate. Did I mention he's got a big arm? He can run. He's 6'6" and can run. Okay, a little bit like Justin Herbert. I think he moves a little better than Justin Herbert. Great leader. I'm not saying Mac Jones isn't a great leader. But he's not as accurate as this guy. Trevor Lawrence, of course, has some great receivers at Clemson. He didn't have Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, who had 200 receiving yards in the first half against Ohio State. He didn't have that guy. Okay, so we gotta back this up. Mac Jones is not Trevor Lawrence. Okay, he's not. Oh my goodness, I keep forgetting the kid's name from BYU, the quarterback who I'm actually hearing is going to go over Justin Fields, second overall. I'm hearing scouts aren't that high on Justin Fields, but even Justin Fields, I'd absolutely take him over Mac Jones. And to those who say, well, look how they played against each other in the national championship game. Switch squads. Okay, in Justin Fields' defense, he had a busted up rib, so that didn't help. But there's guys all over him the entire game. He's constantly pressured. The Alabama corners, including Patrick Surtain, who's going to go to top 10 of the draft, did an amazing job against, I'm trying to remember what the receiver for Ohio State, number 17. His name's not coming to my mind, but he did a great job on him one-on-one. So you put Justin Fields on Alabama with Devontae Smith and Najee Harris, the best offensive line in college football, great tight end and a great defense, and Nick Saban. And Steve Sarkisian is your offensive coordinator. It's gonna look a little worse than it ended up looking with Mac Jones as Alabama's quarterback. So to even suggest that Mac Jones is Trevor Lawrence it's insane. It is crazy. Because see, this is what happens. This is what happens with great young quarterbacks. Because Trevor Lawrence has been a starter in college football for the last 3 years, we're down to the nitpicking, right? We don't have time to nitpick Mac Jones. He was just there as a starter for 1 year. So it was like, oh, we won the national championship. Okay. Mac Jones was not going to win 3 straight national championships at Alabama. I can promise you that. Maybe he wins 2. He's not winning 3. Okay. Trevor Lawrence couldn't get more than 1. So Mac Jones is not getting 3. Here's the thing. We're at this stage with Trevor Lawrence where freshman year, wow, look at this guy. Second year, he's really good. The third year, we're like, oh, okay, we got to nitpick his flaws. He's going to get better. He, again, like I mentioned, he's the best quarterback prospect, arguably the best quarterback prospect coming out of college we've ever seen. I hear a lot of people say it's Elway. which I wouldn't dispute. Andrew Luck also wouldn't dispute. Two guys from Stanford. But this guy is special. This guy, if Urban Meyer, for all his faults, is what we think he is in Jacksonville, and he and Trevor Lawrence mesh, look out. I'm not saying that I don't think Jacksonville's going to make the playoffs next year. If they do, then goes to show you how great Trevor Lawrence, he's greater than even I thought he was. We got to see what happens in the long run in that division, the AFC South. But he's not even in the same. Mac Jones is not even the same conversation. I don't know. Mac Jones is a first-round pick. I don't. Put him in Jacksonville, Mac Jones is going to struggle. And Trevor Lawrence is the only guy that I think going to the Jacksonville Jaguars who I think, okay, he can turn this organization around. I mean, outside of 1 year, 2017, where the Jaguars with Blake Bortles got to the AFC Championship game and almost beat New England, I don't see any quarterback of the last decade. Maybe Andrew Luck. I couldn't see Kyler Murray doing it, or I'm just thinking about the first-round quarterbacks. Wentz, Goff, can't see them doing that. So this is the only guy, I think, in the last decade, maybe outside of Andrew Luck, that I could see turning around an inherently dysfunctional franchise, a franchise that has not won anything in their franchise in their history, in what, 20, almost 30 years that they've been in existence as an expansion team, going back to the 1990s. So this is not even a conversation. Mac Jones is not in the same universe as Trevor Lawrence. Okay? And if people are concerned about the shoulder, first of all, the shoulder surgery that Lawrence is getting, it's on his non-throwing shoulder, his left shoulder. And all the reports say surgery went well and he's going to be ready for training camp whenever he gets drafted number 1 overall by the Jaguars. I don't even know if Mac Jones is he's not even one of the 4 best quarterbacks. Okay, the kid from BYU is probably going to go 2nd overall to the Jets if they don't somehow find a way to land Deshaun Watson, and if they move on from Sam Darnold, he's going to go 2. Justin Fields is going to be the 3rd quarterback selected, we think. And the kid from Trey Lance out of North Dakota State, same college as Carson Wentz. I think, I've had my issues with Carson Wentz, but they seem to develop quarterbacks there. Trey Lance is going to go over Mac Jones if GMs are smart. So it's debatable whether this guy's even going to be a first-round pick. And I talked about this story a few weeks ago. There was reports that the Patriots might be interested in drafting him with the 15th pick. And I say, that'll be a mess. First of all, Cam Newton went 7-9 with the squad. It goes to show you how great Tom Brady is. Tom Brady went 12-4 with nothing his last year in New England. Cam Newton, good as he is, went 7-9. You're telling me Mac Jones is going to come in and the Patriots are all of a sudden going to be contenders again? Heck no. Mac Jones had better receivers at Alabama than he'd have at New England. Not joking. Not joking. Smith is going to be a top 5 pick, we assume. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. The Mickens kid is better than anybody New England has. Jalen Waddle is better than anyone New England has. Seriously, I mean, I wouldn't suggest for even a moment he has a better team in Alabama than New England. Of course he didn't. These are NFL players. But he's not going to get – Josh McDaniels is a very good coordinator, but in the NFL level, he's not Steve Sarkisian is at the college level. So this is not – if he goes to New England, that would be a disaster. I mean, if that's their plan, then I say, just like I said at the beginning of the show, if that's your plan to go with Jarrett Stidham, or if you decide to draft Mac Jones 15th overall, then just sign Cam Newton. Just sign Cam to a 2 or 3 year deal until he can figure something out at quarterback long term. So, June Jones, no disrespect, but you're crazy on this one. You're crazy. You can't take Mac Jones over Trevor Lawrence. This guy's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league before we know it. I mean, how many guys we say that about coming out of college? We didn't say that about Patrick Mahomes. We thought he was going to be very good. Of course, we didn't see that. By the way, congrats to Patrick Mahomes and his fiance Brittany, who are now new parents to a baby girl. So congratulations to them on that. But back to Pat, we didn't see this coming with him coming out of college. We do see it coming with Trevor Lawrence. This dude's going to be special, man. If the Jacksonville coaching staff is what I think it is, and they have some pretty good receivers in Jacksonville, hey, Sky's the limit for this young man. So that is all the time we have for today's show. A lot of craziness today. NBA, NFL. Can't wait for Thursday. Can't wait for Friday. Both shows, of course. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. If you were listening to the podcast of this, thank you. And that was on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. So hope everybody has a great evening. Please continue to stay safe, especially prayers continued to those in Texas with the winter storms right now. Of course, we're dealing with the pandemic as well. So just everybody out there, stay safe. God bless you all, and peace out.